The Oak Island team steps back so that the Dumas Contracting Company team can start drilling in this episode. The business is ready to start the job and has everything it needs. Is it possible that new things will be found? How did the team get past problems to reach their goal? The most important question is, where is the wealth that was buried? Stay tuned as we keep looking for the treasure that has been hidden for a long time. Early in the morning, the drilling company starts by planning how to dig the yard shaft all the way down. For about 6 hours, the flooded water has to be drained out of the garden shaft. Then, debris and artifacts have to be pulled out, wood sets have to be added, and the tube underground has to be made clear enough to be explored. The first step in the process seems to be putting together a very strong and useful tool called the hammer grab, which weighs more than 3 tons and is used for digging. After the dig, the team plans to build new 8-foot-tall wooden levels to try to link to the confirmed but still unexplored tunnel. Different artifacts found by the Oak Island team during their past drilling have proven that the tunnel is there. Some of the water that was pumped out has been seen and studied so far and found to contain gold and other things. But there is one thing that stands out from what they saw. The water that was covered in gold didn't seem to come from the garden shaft. Instead, it seemed to come from the baby blob, which is west of the garden shaft. It was found that the baby blob had the most metal and other artifacts compared to other parts of the money pit, through past study and excavation efforts. The team has a lot of hopes for both during and after the addition of the shaft area. A lot of people are positive, excited about the discoveries that will be made, and interested in where they came from. The team was able to figure out the right way for their excavation work by looking at maps and past observations of the land. The garden shaft was the best place to begin the addition at any height and on a flat surface. With this going on, an area of up to 80 feet can be dug up, explored, and watched. This is a large underground area that should yield many artifacts during the process. One thing is certain about this whole operation: good things will happen, even though the team will face some problems along the way. Another good thing is that some problems are easy to solve with the help of the team's partners at Dumas Contracting Limited. The drilling company is helpful when there is no way to get to places with a lot of metal materials. They can also help with additions if needed. If we're lucky, no prize will be forgotten and the chances of finding the lost treasure are higher than ever. The Dumas team starts the job on a good note, ready to find out more. A few hours into the workday, some team members met in the war room as normal. But this time, it was to have a meeting with someone from Ideon Technologies. The purpose of the meeting was to go over the scientific reports of the money pit. A lot of the Oak Island team seems worried about what the reports might say. The study was mostly useful, and the Ideon Technology team worked hard to make sure it was correct. In the money pit area, the tech team put about 14 monitors into 5 boreholes. It's very, very deep, but most of the sensors were only 80 to 250 feet below the ground. This is very, very close to the tube. It wasn't just recently that the investigation was done. It happened as early as 2021, and it took almost 2 years to do all the necessary studies. This means that the report's conclusions are not based on quick observations, but on thorough study and testing. Based on the story, it looks like the sensors could pick up muons even when they were buried several feet deep. The representative said there were specific things to look for, like suits, voids, tubes that cross at the money pit, and strange things happening underground. The reports were shown clearly, showing how full the money pit was. The 3D picture shows that the areas with moderate density are yellow, the areas with low density are blue dots, and the areas with high density are orange and red. Based on how you look at it, places with a high density are more likely to have treasures, while areas with a low density are more likely to have tunnels, voids, or vaults. Based on the picture, the result is good overall. What should be the baby blob was found about 65 feet below the money pit, west of the garden shaft. There was a lot of stuff there. More than 112 feet below the surface, however, there is a low-density area. The team has a conflict of interest because the results mean they might not be able to get to the high-density area because Dumas Limited is still running. Luckily, this isn't the only place where there are a lot of people. An oddity was found about 85 feet southwest of the garden shaft and 230 feet below the money pit. It had a much higher density than other places. This information makes everyone think of their potential. It looks like Oak Island might have more than one prize. This fact has never occurred to searchers in the past or present until now. The team is willing to learn more about what has been found and agrees to use careful digging to try to find out more about the island. As the minute went on, another report was made about an odd, low-density area that Oak Island's team seemed to have looked into. It's different from other low-density, concentrated areas because it seems to cover a mythical, important spot. There have been many attempts to find Aladdin's cave, but it has been hidden by the void for a long time. The L15 hole was drilled, and a big hole was cut at the SDW of the garden shaft just a year ago. The cave was about 40 feet long and 12 feet wide, and there were drawings and other signs of human activity inside. When people were asked about the water in Aladdin's cave, they said it was heavily contaminated with heavy metals, and it looks like the water has some gold in it. It's possible that the cave has been found before, but if not, it has now because all the signs point to it being the right place for the mythological place to be. The report from Ideon Technologies has changed the game and taken a big step forward in finding the prize. Right now, they have exact places, clear goals, and a plan for how to drill. This is a great result that shows that the years of study were very useful. Luckily, L15 can be drilled right away because it is not near the garden shaft. Drilling can start as soon as it is planned to. The meeting went very well because it proved what most of the team already knew. There was more than one treasure at and near the money pit. I think we can all agree that technological progress was a big part of solving many of Oak Island's secrets. The Duma contracting company keeps drilling deep in the garden shaft in the morning of a new day. This time, they are going to dig up L14, Aladdin's cave. On the other hand, archaeologists at Lot 5 keep digging deeper into the stone wall of the rectangle depression that was built to hide the treasures. Some finds have been made, as expected. Some of them go back to before Oak Island, and its treasures were found. The crew found a new object early on, a piece of metal that they thought might be a bolt or a chain link. There could be a few clues as to why the claimed chain link's pieces were found. Some people think that the object broke while being moved or bonded with other items, possibly treasure, and was then buried before the stone wall was built. There's also a chance that something strange and possibly more complicated happened in the area. Where did the idea come from? What was the point of it? Who were the makers anyway? It is likely that the proposed CT scan of the artifact would solve these questions. But one thing is for sure, Lot 5 wasn't just a neighborhood. There is proof that it was also used for military purposes, either because of a conflict or as a training ground. The archaeologists keep carefully digging and sorting to find more unique artifacts that might finally give them information about what people did in the area. Back in the money pit area, another member of the team starts to work on the trash that was taken away. The expert with the metal detector and the historian on the team worked together to dig through the trash and find metal objects. Gary found several strong metal signs in the thick, murky water more than a year ago, but he wasn't able to get as much information because the search had been stopped. There was, however, a lot of proof that the place had a lot of precious metals. There are fewer limits on the operation this time, which means it will have more effects. Not long after the scanning, the detector made a number of beeps which, as expected, meant that valuable metals were present. In no time, a big metal piece thought to be a wedge was found in the mud and other junk. The metal spike is likely part of an axe, as this is what most people think it is. But why would a piece of metal from an axe be more than 80 feet below the ground? Was it used to build tunnels, or did it break while the valuable metals were being buried? If this theory is even slightly true, it looks like the metal wedge dates back to at least 1735. It may contain information about the people who lived in that area and their way of life, society, and technology. The item was sealed and kept until it could be scanned and studied in the lab. The search was put on hold until the debris was dry enough to dig through properly. Drilling for shaft L14 is still going on late into the night, and the team is getting closer and closer to Aladdin's cave all the time. Finally, at 142.5 feet, the void is reached. The team decides to keep drilling until they find something that points to the high-density area, which is not common in this area. During the first dig, the metal proof was found more than 160 feet below. However, the hole seems to be much closer and higher than expected now. Could there be a reason for this new growth? Or is the empty space just where it should be? The good news is that the answers to the questions could be found in the 3D that Ideon Technologies showed. From the picture, it looks like the cave's carving has an odd shape, and it looks like some parts of the roof are much higher than expected. If you believe Marty Laguna's idea, there is a chance that Aladdin's cage was the first storage vault, or that it is an extension of the area where the money pit collapsed. How it happened could have been so many different things. Nevertheless, it is likely that there are some in the area. As the digging went on, it was said that there was nothing but empty space about 148 feet below. This suggests that the void may have been found. In general, the L-14 digging was good enough to make the search go on. The team's next job is to put cameras, scanners, and sonar devices several feet into the hole to watch and record what's going on inside the soon-to-be-found cave and how it's built. To begin with, the hole will be left empty so that it can dry out and become clean enough for the devices to be put in. As soon as the new day starts, people from Dumas start drilling again in the hopes of getting past the empty space, while the rest of Oak Island's team goes to see how things are going at Lot 5. As usual, areas that might have artifacts have been marked with flags. The goal is to dig through these areas in the hopes of finding any artifacts. Things went well at the start of the search because the first flag spot found had a lot of metal materials in it. To get to the goal, a big chunk of dirt and rock had to be pulled out first. An old coin was found after a lot of cleaning and digging. It is thought to be much older than the coins that have already been found. The coin looks and feels heavy enough to be the real thing. Like the other artifacts, this one has been sealed so that it can be tried and studied in the lab. We hope that the results show that the beginning is correct. Find after find seems to support the idea that Lot 5 is located more than an acre farther west on the island, and may have something to do with the money out area. It might be an extension of it. Each team works hard to finish their jobs at the garden shaft and, of course, the Aladdin cave as the new day begins. Other people on the team were given different jobs. Some went to the interpretive center to get reports on the artifacts that had been found the day before. Archaeologist Laird Naveen confirmed that the object was, in fact, a piece of LED, and most likely a bag seal from a long time ago, when they were used to seal industry and military packages. This would have been around the 13th century. Not long ago, on Lot 32, an LED bag seal was found to match the LED trade token from the 1400s and the LED cross from the same year that was found at Smith's Cove. To back up his claim, Laird said that the seals were made from 2 LED circle pieces and pressed on in the 1300s, as shown by the cut section on the metal. Emma also did machine research using an X-ray fluorescence spectrometer, which is a type of radiation used to find out where things come from and what elements they are made of. The test results show that the LED seal is not completely pure. It has some iron elements and not much copper. Another report was made about the bag seals, but the results do not match up. There was one special find, though, that gave people some hope. Strange letters and marks were written on the top of the object that has not yet been recognized. Among the letters, KR was the easiest to see. The other letters were less clear. It looks like each member of the interpretive team found a match for the letters in their own way. The sample had the writing, "I Lovely Parkers in London." The seal belonged to a cloth parker from the 1700s who packed clothes into bales that weighed about half a ton before sealing and sending them. The seal found in Lot 5 could belong to the same person. There is a very good chance that things like military uniforms, weapons, maps, food, medicine, and other things like that were packed up, sealed, and sent to Oak Island at some time. It was said that the business was Army Parkers, which could mean that Lot 5 is a military base or a secret arms operation on the island. So far, the company's century has not been proven, but an entry's location suggests that it was founded around 1808. The fact that the letter I was used instead of J in the writing on the seal proves that it is much older than it seems. This way of writing I stood for John before it became outdated because of changes in language, but it has been used since 1524. It looks like the island keeps giving us clues to help us figure out what's going on. There's a chance that the British military and the Parkers did some things together in the 1500s. The real question is, what was delivered? The seal could have been left by someone looking for the lost riches. This person could have had tools, supplies, medical care, or whatever they needed at the time. The guess is that it might be hard to figure out who it is. However, literally and figuratively, we might never know. Back at Lot 5, Jamie Kuba says that the archaeologists are making progress in digging carefully into the square depression. But a new project has been started to use Genomics EM38B to scan the area near the rectangle feature and look for artifacts. The archaeological department has an electromagnetic induction device. The gadget's job is to find out how the pressure force changes the ground. The soil is changed by things like floods, fire, erosion, and the movement of soil layers. It is still possible to figure out what happened at the site, even if the proof has been washed away or is almost gone. The EM38B uses its magnetic pulls to find buried metal objects, buildings made of wood or stone, and damage or disturbance caused by people. While testing EM38B, Jamie was told that something strange was going on in a certain place. It's pretty close to the circular depression, which could mean something and link the two places together in some way. Beforehand, there were set places to explore that were marked with ropes spaced about 50 centimeters apart. This makes it easy to check the breadth to see how big the problem is, how long it is, and exactly where it is. With this feature, the team isn't just searching randomly, they're searching in places that have been specifically chosen. As another morning sun goes down, the team gets ready for the work of the day. We start the day with a video call with Craig Tester and the rest of the team. The aim of the meeting was to read the carbon dating report of 100-foot-deep wood samples that were taken more than a week ago at the C5N27 borehole. The wood came from a recently found shaft that went into the baby blob and was located directly east of the garden shaft. If you like the movie so far, please subscribe to the channel. Reports say that a piece of wood was carbon dated and found to be between 53.2% and 1811 years old, 25.5% to 1644 years old, and 16.7% to 1950 years old. The wood looks like it came from an outer edge tree and was cut down around the same time. Based on this information, the wood seems to be from a time before treasure hunters came to the island. This means that the tunnel was built by the people who first put the treasure there, not by someone who was looking for treasure. The Oak Island team is thrilled with this news. It proves that they are in the right place to drill the C5N27 hole, and they will soon be able to fully enter the tunnel. This tube could be an addition to the money pit or a way to get to it. It will become clear over time. It's also possible that C5N27 is bigger than what we think it is, especially in terms of length. There's no question that the money out and the tunnel at C5N27 are connected. Perhaps by digging deeper into the garden shaft, a link to the tunnel and a whole new discovery could be made. The information we have about C5N27 is more than satisfactory. It gives us hope for the search that lies ahead and for the amazing finds that will definitely be made. The Oak Island team looks excited to keep looking for the lost loot. This time, though, they are a little closer to discovering its home and hopefully taking the treasures out of the boxes.
Researchers discovered something incredible in the Oak Island money pit. Oak Island is a sequestered location off the south coast of Nova Scotia, and for generations, people have been fascinated by the island. Finally, researchers discovered something unbelievable in the Oak Island money pit. A large number of academics, scientists, and explorers are intrigued by the possibility of uncovering the mysteries buried beneath the island's surface. It may seem like an exciting adventure on a real-life treasure island, but bear in mind that many individuals have risked their entire fortunes in an attempt to make a fortune on this island. Some unfortunate individuals have even lost their lives in the process, only to have nothing to show for it in the end. The entrance of the Lagina brothers, who have joined the long list of treasure hunters attempting to solve the island's mysteries, has brought about a recent change in the status quo. The Lagina brothers are confident that they possess the skills necessary to locate the fabled treasure said to be buried on Oak Island, and ultimately, these researchers discovered something in the Oak Island money pit that you won't believe. Join us as we observe them as they investigate this 200-year-old enigma, and together we will determine if there is, in fact, hidden wealth on the island. Throughout the course of their expedition, they stumble upon some astounding discoveries that will astound you. The Lagina brothers have devoted a substantial portion of their careers to locating buried wealth. It is understandable why anyone would be captivated by the prospect of unearthing centuries-old treasure buried by someone in the past. Unfortunately, similar to a large number of other visitors to the island, the brothers initially encountered difficulties and failed in their endeavors. Rick and Marty were fortunate in that their treasure hunting efforts did not go unnoticed. The A&E network became aware of the brothers' work, and recognizing the potential for a compelling series about treasure hunters investigating Oak Island, decided to collaborate with them on a series titled The Curse of Oak Island. It's quite eerie, wouldn't you say? Thanks to their cooperation with the television network, the brothers were able to recover the funds that they had previously spent on their travels to the island. Their research activities attained an entirely new level after receiving financial support from the network and other investors. It is essential to note, however, that despite the influx of wealth, the Lagina brothers and their new investors did not make any noteworthy discoveries during the first 2 seasons of their program. This is something that must be recognized. Despite this, they demonstrated an admirable amount of patience, which is commendable because, as the saying goes, patience is a virtue. After 3 seasons of searching, the explorers on Oak Island finally made significant discoveries that aroused their curiosity. The discovery of a ceremonial Roman sword suggested that Roman soldiers may have visited Oak Island before Christopher Columbus. This major accomplishment opened a floodgate of opportunities for the crew, and as they diligently combed the island for riches, they discovered a wide variety of artifacts and antiquities. A handcrafted replica of a map of France was one of their discoveries, which aroused their interest in the artifact. In order to conduct the analysis, they enlisted the assistance of historian and maritime expert Zina Halpern. After determining that the map was created in 1647, Halpern theorized that the resources it indicated may have originated in Africa. During the course of their investigation, the Lagina brothers and the rest of their crew discovered fragments of a book, which further investigation revealed to be a bookbinder. After making this discovery, the brothers began to contemplate the possibility that they had not yet discovered additional buried manuscripts on the island. A fragment of parchment made from animal skin was yet another fascinating artifact discovered. William Chappell and Frederick Blair, explorers of Oak Island, have been hypothesized to be involved. In the 15th century, when the document was created, only the wealthy could afford to dispatch mail. In addition, the explorers discovered a number of gold coins near a pit that became known as the Money Pit. This location sparked the island's obsession with treasure that has persisted for the past 2 centuries. Unfortunately, a recurring issue with flooding halted Chappell and Blair's treasure hunting expedition when the Money Pit became submerged in water, preventing them from making any further progress. After Chappell and Blair led the way, many others attempted to find treasure on Oak Island, but unfortunately none were successful. Chappell and Blair were only the beginning of a long line of people who followed in their footsteps. The issue of where the loot was hidden evaded even President Roosevelt, despite his best efforts. Despite numerous abortive attempts, the search for treasure on the island continued indefinitely. This was due to the efforts of individuals like Irwin Hamilton, who unearthed artifacts that were not typical of the area. It was evident that Rick and Marty had a challenging mission ahead of them. They were fortunate to have a competent and capable team supporting them. Craig Tester, who had been Marty's college flatmate, joined their ranks, as did Dan Blankenship and his son David, all of whom were experts in their respective disciplines. Dan Blankenship, for instance, was a renowned hunter who left his contracting business to investigate the enigmatic island. Since the Lagina siblings had been treasure hunting since they were young children, it was not surprising that they were both exceptionally skilled at the activity. As soon as Ricky, then 10 years old, stumbled upon a boulder and became intrigued by the concept of unearthing buried treasure, their passion for treasure seeking was ignited. Even though their first attempt to search the boulder for treasure failed, it set them on a path that would lead them to spend the remainder of their lives engaging in similar adventures. As time passed, they gained a deeper understanding of the tales and legends surrounding Oak Island, which strengthened their resolve to investigate the island's mysteries further. The brothers Lagina and Dan Blankenship each purchased 1/2 of the stock in Oak Island tours in order to realize their dream of discovering the buried treasure and seizing it for themselves. This gang appears to be destined to follow in the footsteps of their former commander, Daniel McGinnis. McGinnis discovered a depression in the ground on Oak Island in 1796, prompting him to initiate his own search for wealth on the island. They and their associates spent approximately 10 years excavating the pit, but none of their efforts bore fruit. In the end, the Onslow Company was the one to assume responsibility for excavating the money grave, but they too were disappointed. Discovering only a stone instrument containing writing, it took over a century to translate the inscription on the stone tablet, which is believed to read, 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried. Others relied on conjecture, such as Marie Antoinette hiding her wealth prior to her execution, or William Shakespeare hiding his fortune and unpublished works. while others use this as evidence to infer that there could be treasure on the island. Despite this, these hypotheses have not been confirmed because no treasure has been found. Since the beginning of excavation on the island, individuals such as the Lagina brothers have been responsible for the discovery of hundreds, if not thousands, of artifacts. The Laginas made a remarkable discovery when they unearthed the bones of two distinct individuals. The fact that one set of bones belonged to a person of Middle Eastern ancestry and the other to a person of European ancestry added another layer of enigma to the island's history. The remains were discovered on opposing sides of the island. The discovery of bones belonging to individuals of Middle Eastern and European descent led to the conclusion that these men may have been members of the Knights Templar. Gary Drayton, an additional member of the Lagina team known as the Metal Finding Ninja, discovered a medieval-era cross and a stone with Greek letters. After analyzing the relics, Zena Halpern argued that they may be associated with Tannin, the Phoenician deity of fertility. These discoveries appeared to support the hypothesis that the Knights Templar had visited the island. However, after analyzing the artifacts, Zena Halpern hypothesized that they were associated with Tannin. When the cross's lead covering was removed, it was discovered to be made of gold, leading some to presume it was used to smuggle gold. In addition, some individuals believed the cross may have been used to transport gold. The Lagina brothers believed that their discoveries were more important than those of their contemporaries. Are you currently appreciating this video? Be careful to subscribe and enable post notifications to be notified immediately when a new post is published. In spite of this, they remained enthusiastic about continuing their search for treasure on Oak Island, which was fueled in part by their desire to uncover the island's mysteries as they proceeded. They made additional discoveries, including the discovery of various types of stone tablets in the money pit. Initially, the tablets were considered to be nothing more than ordinary artifacts, but after further investigation, it became apparent that they could represent evidence of Viking occupation of the island. Oak Island exploration has been a phenomenal experience for the Lagina brothers. Through their partnership with the television network, they were able to achieve financial success despite not discovering any genuine treasures. As a consequence of the show, they now own 50% of the island and have become billionaires. They remain committed to their work in the hopes that one day, with a little luck, they will find the treasure chests buried somewhere beneath Oak Island. Researchers on the team have just discovered something no one was meant to see. Scientists have at last disclosed what lies at the bottom of the Oak Island money grave. It's similar to a traditional tale about concealed riches and traps, but with a twist. Despite the fact that we know precisely where the treasure is concealed, recovering it has proven to be an arduous task. In most instances, the greatest difficulty in locating buried treasure is in locating it. In this case, however, it is retrieving it that poses the greatest challenge. Numerous individuals have theorized and attempted to solve this issue, but no one has yet been successful. The mystery encircling Oak Island and its fabled lost wealth has attracted countless treasure hunters for over 2 centuries. But scientists have now revealed what is at the bottom of the Oak Island money pit. Despite the efforts of numerous people, including notable figures such as Franklin D. Roosevelt, Errol Flynn, and John Wayne, the treasure remains stubbornly buried in the earth, resulting in the deaths of several people. In 1795, a man named Daniel McGinnis discovered a strange circular depression on an uninhabited island off the coast of Nova Scotia. McGinnis, a fan of the genre, decided to investigate the depression after hearing rumors that Captain Kidd had buried 2 million pounds of treasure east of Boston. The following day, McGinnis and his companions returned to the site and began excavating. Initially, the ground was very soft, but after roughly 3 meters, they struck something solid. It was a piece of oak, not a hoard of gold. Initially, this did not appear to be much, but as the men delved deeper, they discovered another plank, and then another. Along the sidewalls of the trench they were excavating, they also observed what appeared to be pick and shovel marks. Someone excavated and then filled in the trench many years ago. Due to the island's size and isolation, it is highly unlikely that someone dug such a large and deep grave for any purpose other than to conceal something of great value. The search for the missing treasure of Captain Kidd had officially begun. However, despite vertically descending the equivalent of 3 stories, no treasure was discovered. The workers ran out of resources, time, equipment, and people, and gave up constructing the massive hole in the earth, henceforth referred to as the Money Pit. The Money Pit on Oak Island had attracted treasure hunters from all over the world, despite the fact that excavation had been abandoned following a failed initial attempt. In 1802, 30 men from the neighboring hamlet of Onslaught arrived with shovels and pickaxes and began excavating the ditch, making it deeper than it had been previously. Approximately 27 meters in depth, they discovered a large stone engraved with a cipher that, when deciphered, would disclose a hidden message, as well as wooden platforms spaced at 3-meter intervals. 10 feet down, 2 million pounds are concealed. However, disaster struck just as it appeared that Captain Kidd's treasure had been found. The Onslaught personnel returned to the Money Pit one morning to discover that it had been completely submerged by 18 meters of water. Due to this strange and unanticipated event, the extracted shaft is now useless and cannot be used for further excavation. The Onslaught's troops, undeterred by their defeats, resolved to dig a shaft parallel to the Money Pit in order to access the treasure from the side. The fact that the second shaft also filled rendered their efforts futile and compelled them to abandon their goal. Another determined search for Captain Kidd's concealed treasure did not commence for nearly 50 years. In 1849, a team from Toro arrived and redigged the 2 holes that the Onslaught crew had dug. The water filled the openings once more, rendering their efforts futile. The Toro firm observed an anomaly that the Onslaught crew did not notice. A portion of the water in the pits was mildly salty, and its level appeared to vary with the tide. This suggested that seawater was finding its way into the Money Pit, which was located approximately 40 meters inland. Following a search of the island's shores, the crew discovered the beginning of a small canal that led to the Money Pit, which was located deep below. This was the first indication of the odd, unexplainable events that would plague the search for Captain Kidd's wealth. The treasure hunters were determined to obtain Captain Kidd's loot, but the discovery of the mined flood system was a significant setback. Despite the apparent value of whatever was at the bottom of the hole, accessing it was exceedingly difficult due to the elaborate security measures in place. The Toro crew dug numerous shafts to approach the pit from a variety of directions, but their efforts were frequently thwarted by water and sudden cave-ins. They were ultimately compelled to abandon their search for the treasure, forever altering the allure of Oak Island. Since then, swarms of people have flocked to Oak Island in the hopes of excavating the Money Pit's buried riches. Over the past 170 years, countless explorers have flocked to Oak Island in quest of the rumored legendary treasure buried at the bottom of the Money Pit. Some have attempted to avoid the complex booby traps in the flood tunnels, while others have dug ditches on other parts of the island, frequently at the cost of human life and spawning fanciful rumors of a curse. In spite of the development of ever more advanced instruments, such as steam pumps in the 1860s and divers in 1909, treasure hunters have attempted and failed throughout history. Even though they sent apparatus for digging and divers to the island in 1909, the old gold salvage gang was unable to break Oak Island's curse. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the future president of the United States, is rumored to have been a member of the original Gold Savage group and to have been fascinated by its mystery throughout his entire existence. Errol Flynn and John Wayne, 2 of Hollywood's greatest stars of the 1930s, donated money to multiple expeditions. According to legend, King George VI of England instructed 2 treasure hunters to submit their finds. Despite numerous searches, the treasures of Oak Island have evaded discovery. Rick and Marty Lagina, brothers who were filming their treasure search on Oak Island for the History Channel, were in charge. The fact that this is the 9th season of the program could be indicative of how successful their quest has been thus far. The siblings have unearthed a variety of intriguing artifacts, such as money, weapons, and jewelry, but they have yet to find Captain Kidd's legendary loot. The longer one searches without discovering the treasure, the more reasonable it becomes to question its very existence. The story should be regarded as a myth, despite the fact that many people have searched for his riches. The discovery of evidence that Daniel McGinnis had discovered the Money Pit in the 1790s did not occur until 1857. In addition, the account differs based on the cited source. There is little evidence to suggest that Captain Kidd concealed valuables on Oak Island, and the popular conception of pirates is wholly fictitious. Walking the plank and other stereotypes, such as parrots and prosthetic legs, are not supported by substantial evidence. The portrayal of Robin Newton as Long John Silver in the 1950 film adaptation of Treasure Island also contributed to the mythologizing of the infamous pirate incident. Contrary to conventional belief, there is only one well-documented case of a pirate actually burying treasure, and it wasn't them. Captain William Kidd. Be sure to stay informed and subscribe for more information on recent discoveries and findings. On Gardner Island, 500 miles away, Kidd buried his wealth, which was discovered less than a year later and used as evidence in his trial and execution. However, it is also conceivable that Kidd hid treasure on Oak Island. Why would Kidd, or any pirate for that matter, go through the trouble of excavating a 30-meter deep booby-trapped pit to conceal treasure if the objective was merely to keep anything valuable secure? A few meters would have sufficed, correct? Even if Kidd did bury wealth on Oak Island, it is likely lost forever due to the inability of modern technology, such as ground-penetrating radar, to discover it. In 1995, the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution conducted a scientific investigation of Oak Island to locate any concealed treasure. As a result of their investigation, the crew came to the disappointing conclusion that the fabled inundation of the money pit was not the result of a complex trap, but rather the result of natural geological processes on the island. In Nova Scotia, near Oak Island, there are sinkholes that share some characteristics with the original money pit. Even if the cryptography stones and oak platforms discovered in the money pit appear to disprove this theory, it is important to note that many of these critical pieces of evidence have not vanished despite having been a part of the Oak Island legend for more than a century. Scientists are astounded by a startling new discovery, which can be viewed by clicking the following video.